You know, YouTube has the ability to be a place of creativity and ambition like no other. But let's be fair, some people take the absolute piss, and they often get taken out by the YouTube gods. In this video, I'm going to cover some of the most unique reasons YouTube channels have been terminated, and trust me, some of them are bonkers. Also, before we get into things, make sure to follow me on all of my socials if you enjoy my videos. Aside from that, let's get into things. So let's start off with one that you guys all might know. This is ShannyForChrist, and if you don't know her, you're in for a real lesson today because a lot of these channels are incredibly niche. It was June of 2021 when ShannyForChrist's channel was terminated, after a long slew of being abusive to her family. The first major incident that led to her eventual online demise came in 2019, after she was convicted of assaulting her former partner, a man by the name of Jason Egroff, better known as Rev. She allegedly slapped him across the face before attacking him with a whip. Don't feel too bad for him though, because 2 years later, while Shanny was live streaming, he threatened to beat her child as they were all driving in the car together. To make matters worse, based upon the article I read on the situation, it's to my belief that her son was aged about 12 to 13 and was autistic. Not only was she abusive, but also was her partner, and this was too much for YouTube, who declared that these incidents breached their terms of service, and ShannyForChrist was deleted, before being reinstated, and then once again swiftly deleted. She's since tried to come back on multiple occasions, but each time the door has been slammed in her face, and it appears as though ShannyForChrist's YouTube career is over, gaining about 3,000 subscribers by the time of deletion, but being much more infamous than her sub count led on. So just to try and introduce you to the weirdness that you have to be putting up on YouTube in order for your account to be deleted, the next tale is of ShugoCharaBoy, otherwise known as Tyler Jaffets. His channel would be erased from YouTube servers in August 2020 after reportedly using GoAnimate to make videos that promote child abuse, bullying, and even fetishes. Which, pause, can I ask, how did someone with only 1,800 subscribers at the time of his channel's deletion have this wikitubia page with the works of Shakespeare about his controversies, history, and rivalries, and I can't get one? If there's one thing this video is going to do, it's going to get me a wikitubia page. I demand one right now. I deserve it. I fucking need it. Anyway, rant aside. Having a look at the re-upload of this guy's videos, I can understand why he was terminated. You need to understand that he was making GoAnimate videos, but about like Swipe of the Fox, and there was frequent cursing and implied underage girls wearing skimpy clothing. The deal is that these videos would have very likely had a very large audience of children, and this content simply isn't appropriate for them. But something I found interesting during the research of this video is that there's actually a GoAnimate wiki which has described Tyler Jaffets, or ShugoCharaBoy, as an abuser, stating, "He was seen by many involved as a horrible person with belly and man-child fetishes." So yeah, he's probably a nonce. Pause and read it if you care to. And don't think that this will be the last time we discuss GoAnimate in this video. This is only the tip of the iceberg. We have to go much deeper for the rest. So the next one is more of a group of channels that were all deleted around the same time, and for good reason. They are incredibly awful, the worst of the worst. It's almost hard to fathom how much of a villain you have to be to think that this would be an acceptable way of behaving. It's the pet rescue genre. So if you haven't heard of the pet rescue genre before, there's something that you have to understand. Some people care more for attention, YouTube success, and money than they do for defenseless animals. While on the surface these channels might seem very noble or wholesome, as we've seen on YouTube time and time again, often an entire genre has more than meets the eye. We saw it with family channels that exploit children for views, it happened with prank channels that faked content, it happened with primitive building channels for the same reason. But the reason that YouTube deleted a ton of pet rescue channels was that they weren't actually saving these pets, they were putting them in danger. You see, the premise of these channels were usually that there was an injured puppy or kitten, and someone would record themselves saving it from a situation and getting it back to full health. But unless the videos are user submitted, or the channel belongs to a company like the RSPCA, which deals with this kind of situation every day, you cannot make a pet rescue channel, because you just wouldn't run into injured puppies and kittens every day. So what did these guys do? They injured them themselves. Nick Crowley has a fantastic video on the topic, which I'll link in the description if you're interested in finding out more. But according to Wikitubia, there have been over 30 different channels that have been deleted for purposely putting animals such as dogs and cats in danger for the purpose of saving them on camera, making views, gaining subscribers and earning money. If you've seen my videos before, you might know my stance on it. I think you had to be sick in the head to do this kind of stuff, but unfortunately it does happen quite a lot. OddKast is the next creator I want to talk about, and straight up, this dude is infamous. His streams are definitely pushing the boundaries.
In all honesty, if I had the money, I would buy an Asian prostitute and bring it to America. I wouldn't teach her English at all. I'd keep her ass in the fucking house, just cook and clean.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff he says online. Now, according to my research, he was already very close to termination before he was eventually snuffed off the platform in November 2021, on account of his toxic and frankly racist fan base. But something would soon happen after to put the final nail in the coffin, and that was that he was apparently going to purge his Discord to get rid of all of the trolls, and then, and I quote, "After unmodding one of his mods, he failed to realise that the moderator had channel permissions, and the moderator took revenge by changing his channel profile picture to an asshole and uploaded the 2019 New Zealand mosque shooting, getting the channel permanently banned." Looking on YouTube, this guy did seem to have a very big cult following, but I guess that doesn't matter anymore because his channel is now lost to the earth, never to be revived. This is an interesting story. If you haven't heard of DollyFlesh before, it's about to open up a big can of worms. So DollyFlesh was a stop-motion animator on YouTube and has been dubbed the internet's most disturbed animator. So what did he do that was that disturbed? Well, a lot of his art seems to be depictions of what many people thought were his fantasies, many of these being very graphic and violent. Much of his work included actions such as dismemberment, cannibalism, sexual assault, and even animal abuse, but not done in a way that might evoke subtlety, not that they're used in a larger narrative, in a way that glamorized them. And many people think that these are what he wanted to do, these were his fantasies. It was clear to see that he loved to see women in particular being gruesomely tortured or degraded. And speaking of torture, in 2021, DollyFlesh was arrested after torturing and murdering his 3 pet hamsters, the method of which is extremely disturbed, and so the less said on the matter the better. Eventually, it was brought to the attention of Susan and the YouTube team, who decided that this art had to be erased from the site. In fairness, I think that all of the channels in this video that got terminated got what was coming to them. For example, our next entry. One of the most controversial figures in this video, Richard Spencer, is the subject of our next story. He had just shy of 3,000 subscribers on YouTube when he was terminated in June 2020. And while you might not know his channel, I'm sure you're aware of his work. And if you don't know what I mean, let me explain. While his name might not be that well known, he was one of the figureheads around the 2017 Charlottesville Unite the Right rally, a rally attended by white supremacists, neo-Nazis, and white nationalists, which ended in the deaths of 3 people. Now, I think it might be a bit easier to understand why YouTube decided that his voice on the platform needed to be taken away. Just by a simple look of his name up on YouTube, you'll be greeted with such gems as rebranding white nationalism, Richard Spencer wants to make white privilege great, watch Richard Spencer explain why he's not a Nazi, we memed the alt-right into existence, and my personal favourite, Africans have benefited from white supremacy. Wait, what? His beliefs are really full of shit, and again, he was a big figurehead in many of the biggest far-right movements over the past 5 years. It kind of makes sense that his channel was terminated. Speaking of full of shit, I really don't know where to begin on this one. On the 27th of March 2021, a channel by the name of Wuzzy was terminated from YouTube. It had about 1,600 subscribers at the time. Once I read its story, I knew I had to include it. The channel Wuzzy was deleted for its fetishes. So to get to the bottom of things, we had to go back to 2015 when it was created. 8 days after its inception, the owner of the channel uploaded a video titled "Noisy Mess in Undies," And if I show you the channel icon, I think you can piece 2 and 2 together, but in case you can't, if I'm not mistaken, this was someone who was shitting their britches on camera and putting the videos up on YouTube. I don't know what it is, but I've been talking about kinks and fetishes way more recently on the channel than ever before. Kill me. The platform got catch of his deeds in 2020 after he uploaded a video called Huge Underwear Poop, and the following year, the swift hammer of YouTube struck upon Fuzzy Wuzzy, and his dookie empire was flushed down the toilet, as it were. Shey Gacha. This video is something else. So if you don't know who Shey Gacha is, or at least was because their channel has obviously been deleted, her channel gained a lot of popularity in the early months of 2021. For saying some of the most vile stuff you perhaps could. For one, she mocked both cancer and Tourette's, saying that they don't exist and that people need to stop faking them. She then uploaded videos of her beating up cancer patients and people with Tourette's in Gacha life. And of everything she's known for, this is probably the least bad. Trust me, it gets worse from here. It was the same year, 2021, where she started to gain attention online because after YouTuber Jacksepticeye's father passed away, she made videos mocking both the deceased and the bereaving, insulting Septiceye and his late father. These videos gained tens of thousands of views, and Shey Gacha gained a few thousand subscribers. This would arguably be topped though, because she then would argue that MAPs, or MAPs, I don't really know the acronym if you pronounce it MAP or not, were a good thing. And if you don't know what an MAP is, it stands for a minor attracted person. And yeah, she went on to support MAP Pride and was shortly terminated afterwards. Of course, she was very likely trolling. I can't think that anyone in the world is that obscene. At least I refuse to believe it. But in short, she was terminated for clearly violating YouTube's guidelines, nothing more to say on the matter. This was a termination for all the right reasons. So this next one, I really don't know how controversial this is going to be. I want to see your guys' reaction to this story. This is the story of Natasha Maile, and just like the pet rescue videos, she's just the tip of the iceberg of a much larger genre of YouTube video. So Natasha Maile was part of a genre of YouTube videos that has essentially been culled, and that genre is the breastfeeding niche. Now obviously people are going to have differing opinions on where and when new mothers can whip out the milk makers. I'm not going to touch that argument. But what about when it comes to not a new mother at all? So the deal is that it's going to be quite difficult to make content surrounding breastfeeding because first of all, YouTube's guidelines surrounding nudity are quite enforced, but you can only do it for a maximum of 2 years per child, right? Well, apparently wrong. Because despite most sources I've found online, such as the NHS and the American Academy of Pediatrics, stating that 6 months to about 2 years is the right time to stop breastfeeding, over the past 5 or so years, Natasha Maile and roughly 15 other channels have been terminated for breastfeeding older children. Breastfeeding my 9-year-old? Why? Inappropriate? And perhaps more worryingly, breastfeeding until 18 years? But you shouldn't worry too much because these are both kind of clickbait. She says that she'll stop when it feels natural to stop, and that will probably be around the age of 8. Now, it's 2022. Of course, I'm not going to be the one to tell a woman what she can and can't do with her body. I'd surely get cancelled. Oh, that was a tough legal battle. Personally, 8 is way too old. I would not want to be known as that kid that sucked his mum's tits until year 3. Absolutely not. But I'm probably the least able person to answer this question because I was bottle fed as a baby anyway. YouTube has tried to come down on her content, but every few months she keeps coming back with new channels. Oh yeah, and I should also mention that this is a fetish thing for some people because of course it is. If you search her name up, you'll find a bunch of playlists of women jugs exposed to the world. If you ask me, this is a bit of hullabaloo. So there's been a trend so far in this video that many members of the far right are recipients of YouTube's termination, and BakedAlaska is no different. He is an alt-right personality and white supremacist, and since we've already had 1 or 2 of these, I'll keep things brief. According to Wikitubia, he was terminated for posting a video in which he didn't stop harassing shop owners after being asked to wear a mask in October 2020. This might just be the tip of the iceberg though, no pun intended, because only 2 months later, he'd be involved in the January 2021 Capitol attacks, using the online service DLive to live stream the event, because his YouTube channel had been terminated. 16,000 people tuned in to watch his version of the events. If he did have a YouTube channel still, he likely would have streamed it there, so it might be for the best that he didn't. especially since he was actually out on bail after pepper spraying a bouncer in December 2020. He was apprehended by the FBI a few days later after the Capitol attacks. And yeah, this was after his termination, but nonetheless I think it stands as a good example for the sort of behaviour that he was promoting. He was hit with violating the guidelines of hate speech and hasn't been seen on YouTube ever since. All 35,000 subscribers of his gone down the drain. Officer Poop 247, let's see what we have here. So he's actually best known for being featured in one of Mr. Beast's videos dedicated to bad YouTube intros, but he actually garnered a modest YouTube following before his eventual termination, creating none other than Go Animate videos revolving around the kid's cartoon character and everyone's least favourite bold 5-year-old, Caillou. Now, despite the fact that anyone creating Caillou content should be immediately struck from YouTube servers, Officer Poop did last a little while, but on the 20th of May 2018, the YouTube gods would smite him after he breached community guidelines not once, not twice, but thrice, and his channel was soon no more. Oh yeah, the reason that the next channel was terminated is clear as day. If you've never heard of Evalion, let me tell you a little story. In May 2016, YouTube decided to exterminate her from the platform after it was very clear that her controversial misdeeds would never cease. So what did she do then? Well, she was a straight up Nazi. Like, there was no doubt about it. She made vlogs talking about how Hitler did nothing wrong, which was surprisingly common back then. She made a bunch of videos about how to recognize Jews, and perhaps most bizarrely, she sung happy birthday to Hitler on 420 instead of taking a dank bong rip. So if you're questioning if she had her priorities straight, now you know for sure. It goes without saying that this dangerous way of thinking would be snuffed out by YouTube, but it's kind of scary to think that 60,000 people liked her views and opinions enough to subscribe. So if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and make sure I am beating this Nazi. Just make sure to hit that big red button, but if you're not convinced yet, let's get on with the rest of the video and hopefully eventually you will be. And if you don't subscribe, the Nazis win. I can't believe I just did that. There's been a recent development in the creator that I'm going to talk about next. His name is GhettoASMR, and his channel was terminated in June 2021 at about 128,000 subscribers for a long list of reasons that he's since spoken about on Twitch. And that development was that as of last week, he was also banned off TikTok. What might be the reason for his bannings? Well, let me describe it to you like this. When you're a creator that has the same level of success and fame that GhettoASMR had, even if you look like a soggy fucking pancake, you're going to have a lot of people of the opposite sex, or maybe even the same sex, DM you, slide into your DMs. And there have been a lot of creators over the years that have basically given up everything for a few moments of satisfaction. GhettoASMR was one of them. It's a tale as old as time online, and it's repeated itself once again. Apparently he uploaded an unlisted video and sent it to a fan. An unlisted video that featured his genitals. This would only be the tip of the iceberg though, because the guy has been accused of sexting multiple underage people, and his reputation towards women has been completely tarnished. Apparently the lad can't find a missus without using his platform to do so, and he was reportedly trying to find his #1 fan. Now, many of the times that he DM'd fans or asked for their nudes was after his channel's deletion, but nonetheless, it's not like he became a sex pest overnight. He was obviously doing it before his channel got the axe, and it was apparently the largest cause of his channel's termination. Speaking of classic YouTube stories, I think the sex pest and this next one really do go hand in hand as the most popular and the most played out. It's a classic story. Someone wants to be big on YouTube and they want it so bad that they forget about ethics and their judgment is clouded. They go balls to the wall in an attempt to achieve their goals, but eventually they're led astray and they cross the line one too many times, and then they just get shafted by YouTube, never reaching the promised land that they gave up everything for. Vorphy is the next YouTuber who got his channel deleted, and I think his wikitubia entry on his deletion sums up in good words why he was deplatformed. Vorphy has been streaming a Fortnite fashion show since April 1st and practically brainwashes his viewers into subscribing, liking, using his code, donating money, and even worse, asking for viewers to become members. The actual stream is on a 30-minute loop and remains on forever. He also threatens his viewers to use the code or else they'll be kicked from the fashion show they desperately want to get into. So if I'm not mistaken things, this guy was basically extorting his child audience and cheating the system in doing so. It seems to me like he wanted power, he wanted fame, and he wanted money, and eventually it became too much, and he was terminated. So this next one I could have spoken about last time in my video about YouTube's criminal practices, which you should watch after this one, by the way, if you haven't already, but I decided to include it in this video instead. And that was a channel that was terminated in April 2021 called The Bell Life, which featured a pair of brothers, Justin Bell, aged 27 at the time, and Howard Bell, aged 44 at the time, who liked to prank each other. The only thing is that their pranks were ill-conceived and often very stupid, even for YouTube pranking standards where the bar is infamously an inch off the floor. The strange thing to me is that the prank that I think sealed the deal was performed in the latter months of 2016. It was driving a motorcycle through Walmart while scantily clad and wearing a cape. The two brothers were subsequently arrested for their actions and each faced a felony of wanton endangerment, and the video was eventually removed. But this doesn't explain why it would almost be half a decade later that their channel would be removed. Either way it was, and the pair had to move to a new channel. So audio listeners, you might want to divert your eyes to the screen right now. Let's just watch a clip right now. I'm not going to say anything, and wonder to ourselves why this channel might have been terminated from YouTube. Okay, yeah, I know I said that was the reason he got banned. It actually wasn't, at least according to his wikitubia. According to his wikitubia, he's apparently not a man of that inclination, but also according to his wikitubia, he's 17 years old. So that makes it two hard things to believe. Now, you might be out here saying, oh, well, fuck, you're just going hard on this guy. Why are you out here calling him a nonce? And no, it wasn't the fact that he apparently made George Floyd gaming. Nah, this guy made a video titled, I Hate British People. Long-term viewers, you know, racism, homophobia, transphobia, classism, I'll give them all a pass under specific circumstances, but Anglophobia is not a joke. Millions of people suffer every year. We will not be oppressed for any longer. I have a Discord linked in the description. If you want to join the cause, click on it, join it. The British people and all of our allies will not be silenced a moment longer. You could follow me on my Twitter, my Instagram, or my Twitch to hear our next steps, or you could financially support the cause by helping me out on Patreon. All of these will be linked in the description. That's all I have today, comrades, so please let me know down in the comments what you'd like to see me do next, because I'm only 121 videos in, and I'm already out of ideas. Thank you very much for watching, God save the Queen,